Business Network. Now to that Congressional Budget Office report on the distribution of household income and federal taxes. Take a look at this. The CBO report found that the people who pay the most taxes get the least benefits from the government, while those who pay the least get the most. I want to bring in Mendon Capital Advisors President Anton Schutz and the Journal's Mary Kissel also with us. Anton, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. So, once again, we see that there's a whole host of free stuff that's being given out to the lowest of the income scale, and it's being paid for by the highest.
Well, I mean, look, we have a crazy tax system. It doesn't make any sense. And if we look at the policies of the last 6 years, we haven't gotten anything that creates jobs. I mean, I'm all for people paying taxes. I'm all for a fair and just tax system. Let's teach them how to fish so they can eat for a lifetime rather than eat for a day. Just handing people money isn't solving anything. Certainly a certain percentage of people are retirees, right? They put money into the system. The system may be giving out more money than they've ever put in, but nevertheless, we can't look at that percentage. But we've got to get people back into the workforce. We've got to encourage businesses to hire. We've got to encourage people to, stay in school, learn, get trained. I mean, there's so many important things we can do here, but the tax system is broken.
It absolutely is. And, Mary, the point that you and I have spoken about in the past is it's not income inequality, it's opportunity inequality.
Yeah, well, again, another president is learning that when you spread the wealth around, you get less wealth, less prosperity. We've had the greatest liberal experiment since the 1930s. We got stagnant wages. We have, yes, more income inequality because people aren't moving up the income ladder. And really the people who are hurting the most were the targets of the president's policies, the youth, certain minority groups in this country. Look, the CBO in this report admitted, it was in a footnote, that taxes and transfers affect how people behave. What do they mean by that? It means that if you give them handouts, if you strip work requirements from things like welfare, well, guess what? People are going to work less. This is the greatest liberal experiment that we have ever had in this country. It has been absolutely refuted. We know that these policies of government spending, higher taxes and redistribution simply don't work.
What are some of the things that portion of the population is getting in terms of free stuff? I mean, health care, let's talk about that's number one. I mean, why would you work hard if you know that you're going to get the benefits anyway, even after you're retired?
Yeah, and these are people, by the way, who are making economically logical decisions. If they look at their income and they say, you know what, if I go out and make $1,000 more and my tax rate goes up by 20%, well, I'm not going to go do that. So what are they getting? Well, all sorts of things, Maria. Food stamps, housing assistance, health care assistance. Now, I'm not against those things for people who actually need it, but we need to distinguish between welfare programs for the truly indigent and welfare programs for people who actually are able-bodied and can work and who we need to get back into the workforce. That's just not an economic issue, Maria. I think that's a moral issue.
Absolutely.
This is a tragedy for the country when you have young people, middle-aged people, even older people who want to work and can't.
Meanwhile, you see these economic policies over the last 6 years, Anton, and it really has not moved the needle. We should be a lot farther along when you look at job creation, when you certainly look at the wage issue. This morning we had the PMI data out across the world. You had manufacturing and growth numbers coming out of Europe, which were weaker than expected, coming out of China that were weaker than expected. That set the tone for markets today. What are you seeing out there?
Well, we've got failed economic policies around the world. We have the central banks that really are the only game in town. They're the only game in Japan. They're the only game in the U.S. They're going to be the only game in Europe. We actually need the governments to enact some fiscal stimulus. And there are many, many things that they can do. They're doing none of it, and all they're doing is fighting with each other. So the central bank's the only game, and at some point they run out of ammunition.
Well, the Fed let them off the hook.
Fiscal stimulus, what are you talking about? More spending?
Exactly.
Well, it's,
That's crazy. We almost did $1 billion of spending. It went nowhere. Yeah, we need the tax reform.
But the tax reform is would be considered as, in my opinion, federal stimulus.
Well, again, what's really obvious here is we have trillions of dollars that U.S. corporations have offshore because we have very bad tax policies.
Right.
Let's bring it back. Let's encourage people to hire people with that money. Let's encourage economic stimulus. You know how stimulative that would be if that money came back here under the right programs? It'd be incredible.
But there's an ideology. I mean, I once asked Tim Geithner about this, and he said if we were to change the law of repatriation, we're leaving too much money on the table.
You mean Tim Geithner, who never really worked in the private sector? Why are we listening? Why are we looking to him for economic?
Well, he was the Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, and what did he do?
Right.
We saw no housing reform, right, which was the cause of the crisis, which, by the way, was due to government intervention in our markets. We didn't get tax reform. I mean, what did we get out of him? Nothing.
Right.
We got nothing out of him.
Well, and one of the things that he consistently said was not going to happen was exactly what you say should happen, and that is the money coming back from Europe. That's just one of many issues around tax. Mary, always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mary Kissel from the Wall Street Journal.